Hello everyone checking out the video, and shout outs to everyone in the stream. We've been at this for about an hour and a half, and this was going to be the highlight for the general audience, hopefully. So I have been testing out the Dodonpachi FPGA Mr. Beta version 3. There have definitely been some big improvements, and so for this little highlight here, I plan to do a one-all using everyone's favorite, the meme of them all, BS. And I'll talk about the changes since Beta 2 and the changes that still need to happen as we go. So let's do it. This ship type is pretty crazy because the guns don't work like they do in DFK or SDOJ. They have this kind of weird delay on them, to where they'll kind of just point in this weird, like, sweeping motion. It makes them very hard to control. But other than that, the ship's actually kind of good. It has a really fast laser startup for a shot type. It also has some decent movement speed. So maybe someday I'll get good enough to control this crazy gun on this ship. So far, the music has definitely improved since the first beta, though you can't quite tell right now. I've noticed from run to run, it'll sometimes behave itself and sometimes won't. But we're getting more consistent soundtrack and sound effects playing at the same time. No, this is not the Japanese version. This is still international. I tried to play on the Japanese version, but I couldn't get it to load. But that might just be because I was using a different ROM than the ROM it wants. I didn't quite research what ROM it wants. You know, there can be a MAME ROM or it can be an FPGA ROM. I think I was using a MAME ROM because I figured that's probably what it wants, but it might be just too old of a MAME ROM or whatever, you know. So I think it's okay for me to be playing the international version now. The real big difference is that with the international version, some of the second loop stuff is different, but for the purposes of this run, it really makes no difference because the first loop of international is basically identical to the first loop of Japan, at least as far as I'm aware. So far, so good. Trying to get this with as few deaths as possible, obviously. I'm not going to be chaining because I actually have no idea how to chain BS. It's probably not all that different from CS other than figuring out how to use its crazy gun setup. It would be cool if someone ROM hacked Dodonpachi and simply changed BS to be like its DFK version, because if so, I would definitely play that. I love the DFK version of the B ship, where the gun rotates along with you in a more direct manner than with this one, where it has a bit of a mind of its own. So we're not really getting our soundtrack. The first time I played the beta, I was getting soundtrack. But like I said, it seems to fluctuate from run to run. We are getting more consistent sound effects, though. The slowdown, especially in the second loop, I was testing the second loop, is still pretty inaccurate. It's not completely off. It's not like Sega Saturn bad, but it's still pretty much inaccurate from how it's supposed to work. Especially when you get into the second loop, it's really noticeable. Certain patterns just fly at you full speed. You're like, oh, wait a minute. From what I understand, BS has a more powerful laser than CS, so these boss fights should actually be easier. The extra movement speed helps too. CS laser is painfully slow. go. And we have a death explosion sound effect. In the previous beta, you weren't getting that, so big improvement there. Now, hopefully, we'll come into stage 3 with the OST playing. Yeah, there we go. Pretty slick gun movement, I thought, right there. All things considered. If you kind of wiggle, you can sort of simulate what it's like to play CS. Legend has been said that if you go into the Hall of Hell with BS and you wiggle around, you can basically just sit down there and wiggle through it. I haven't been able to replicate that myself, but I heard Airbo used to do that. So unfortunately, like with the last beta, the service menu is not accessible, so I'm not able to activate the native autofire. So I put autofire on my arcade stick on a hardware level, but the problem with that is that it still doesn't allow you to quick switch between them smoothly like you can with the C button, where when it's with the C button, if you put both buttons down, it'll go to laser, which is what you want. But with this, you need to release the turbo button completely before going to laser, which is a problem. It makes it way harder to chain and way harder to shot switch effectively. So I've already tested the slowdown, and like I said, it's fairly inaccurate, so no need to put myself at extra risk in this section by milking it. Normally what you do, though, is you milk it for big cancels, big fat cancels. I think we can all agree that the B ship has the coolest bomb animation. It is a pretty swag ship, it's just the damn gun would behave itself. I would absolutely love it. Maybe I'll have to explore B ship more, see if I can find some more strategies on managing its gun a little bit more effectively. Maybe there's some crazy stuff you can do. It has an absolutely mighty shot, though. That center shot does damage. So in the previous beta, this is when the glitchiness began, where that white screen would like hide the boss. White screen has now been patched away, thank you. So I shall be able to see as I play. Earlier in the stream, someone asked about how the input lag feels. I haven't busted out the light camera yet, but overall it feels very responsive. I would guess 2 to 3 frames, that would be my guess. The Mister tends to just be very responsive with all the stuff that I've used on it so far, which I really appreciate, obviously. Yeah, extremely playable, no doubt about it. One thing about the Mister that kind of makes me sad is that even when it gets perfected, I'm not sure how much I'll be able to use it because the Japanese events don't allow for emulation, and I'm assuming they'll put Mister on that list. So I was saying he needs to make it so accurate that I can build like a fake dummy PCB and just pretend and put my Mister inside it and just pretend it is a PCB. Like, oh yeah, this is totally a cave Dodonpachi PCB, absolutely. Don't mind the HDMI port in the back of it. That's just my mod. My HDMI upscale mod, right? Because I refuse to play the PlayStation or Saturn versions of Dodonpachi in those events. They are absolutely inaccurate and broken. As I explained in that video that I did comparing them all. Uh-oh, out of bombs. I need to remember not to bomb anymore. So far, so good. No deaths. The soundtrack kind of took a nosedive, but at least we still get sound effects here. This is a second loop strat. But it works in the first loop if you're not trying to chain. The problem is basically in these types of sections where you need to move over and the gun just sweeps all the way to the side. It's like, okay, what are you going to hit all the way over there, homie? You're not hitting anything. So it'd be cool to find some kind of like trick to prevent it from doing that. I guess if you tap dodge just right, it tends not to do that as much. If you like wiggle. I do wonder if there's some kind of secret that you can tap into. Just wiggle your way across the screen. There's my bomb. I don't want to pick it up though. I want to save it. Okay. So I'm not going to go for the glitch on this guy. I don't know how to set up with BS, and I've gotten fairly good at fighting him glitchless. I've noticed some CS players, I think Airbo, for instance, didn't even go for the glitch in the first loop. Second loop, you gotta, because he's crazy. Second loop, but first loop, it's like, maybe it's not all that worth it. At least with this ship type. With AL and like the laser ship types, it's definitely worth it because it's really easy to set up. But with the shot ship type, it's a little less clear if it's worth it or not, I think. Why not? So normally when you're playing Dodonpachi for score, you can't bomb, ever. Until the very end, so that strategy was not viable for scoring. Yeah. Well, here we go. We're about to put that to the test here, because this is a section where I'm gonna need to do a lot of shimmying. Kind of working. You can probably hear me smacking my arcade stick around. Problem is, you just can't move around fast enough doing that. I bet it makes chaining an absolute nightmare. I'm just gonna put that out there. Like with how precise chaining is in this game, and you're like trying to just move over and you turn and fire at some thing you need to keep alive. It's like, nah, come on now. The one game with incredibly strict chaining is the one you give the guy like this highly spinning gun. That's just sabotage is what it is. Okay, I gotta no bomb this now. So far I haven't died, I don't think. It is possible for me to no miss this. I'm not really that familiar with doing it with this ship, but theoretically I can do it. I know how to beat all the bosses without bombs and stuff. This next bit will be the real hard part though. Oh, I screwed that up. Luck. There was some real luck there. I didn't do the wiggle technique, I just realized. Oh boy. Good thing BS has a pretty powerful laser. And a pretty fast switch too. Like CS going from shot to laser takes forever. But BS is actually pretty fast. Apparently this was the ship that discovered the glitch. BS player. Okay, it's no miss from here. This is gonna be kind of tricky. Especially this next coming part. Please don't hit me. I don't know if I'm gonna get hit here. Oh, okay, it worked. This part's kind of tricky. Oh, barely, yeah. Hardware malfunction. I will not bomb. I want to save my bombs. I think I almost flew into a bolt there. I'm flying CS rounds, so I'm not sure how effective they're actually going to be. I could have potentially dodged that, but that's one of those crazy dodges. But I think you could theoretically squeeze through that. This would be interesting. Stage 6 runs pretty well so far. Some sections are definitely missing slowdown, but at least I can see the stage. And the last one, right, that had that blanket on the top of the screen, I can see. Okay. Can we make this a one miss? This pattern's tricky. Didn't line it up right. You gotta line that up just right. Here we go, the Ninja Stars. These are tough because I think they're a little faster than an arcade, or than in, you know, non-Mister. I think they're missing a little slowdown. Oh boy, like way out of position. Nice thing is at least BS got a little bit more speed to move around, get around these patterns. The CS just can't. Come on now. Ah! Cornered. Cornered. Yes. That was almost a no miss. Potentially, had that last pattern in a stage 5 not been missing slowdown. Thanks, my dude.